All right, ladies and gentlemen, let's talk about First Stand. First Stand is a tournament, international tournament, where we have two Korean teams, two Chinese teams, one from EMEA, one from Asia Pacific, and one from North America, and one from Brazil. Let's take a look at the rosters. We have GENG, BNK FearX, 1 and 2, Bilibili and JDG, 1 and 2 from LPL, G2, Team Secret Wales, LYON, and LOUD. So I will preface this by saying, guys, I know very little about LOUD and, of course, Team Secret Wales. I feel bad for the region, right, when it comes to their situation, because they had one super team in CFO, and then all of their players are now playing on JDG. And obviously, it's a massive testament to how good these players are, considering Junjia and Hongkyu made it all the way here through very tough competition, and they paired together with Gala, Vampire, and Xiaoshu, and of course, the superhero that is Tabe. And then the story of Team Secret Wales, I see Warhorse. This is a world champ. He was on FPX. Good coach here. I see Eddie. Eddie, very good player. Dyer, I'm not super excited about. Always the mid lane situation was always tough. And then the other homies, I don't know them. I don't know them. But Eddie was good. Eddie was good. Warhorse good. That's all I know. And then honestly, considering how good Fury is, I just have to assume these guys are the GOATs. So I'm not going to be rating any of the LCP players, LCP teams, CBLOL teams out of respect. I don't want to say, oh, they're from these regions, they should lose. I don't want to be that guy. I think it's unfair, disrespectful too. So we're just going to jump into the discussion about the other 6 that people are very, very, of course, excited about. Let's do a tier list for top lane. Easy peasy, baby Keen. What makes Keen so damn good? He's good at everything. There was one time Keen looked a little bit worse. He's like, oh, you had a bad series. Turned out he was sick. He was food poisoned, sick. I don't know, he had the influenza, bro. He had everything. And that's why he underperformed. It was like, oh, Keen hasn't underperformed in 2 years. What's happening? Oh, he's ill. He's ill-maxing. Keen, there's so many champions where Keen locks them in, and you're like, all right, the world stops. It's fucking over. Whether it's Ambessa, Gwen, or a Sion, or a Kesante, a Keen Sante, the fact that you have a player with such an unbelievable range, I think it's very, very hard. I think Keen has made such great arguments for himself. The last 2 years, considering his career is so long, I think the biggest knock on him as a player, if you put him in the GOAT conversation, is the fact that GOAT top lane conversation is the fact that he was on the wrong team for a very long time, but very competitive, a top 3 player always. Keen was always top 3 player. He joined KT, he fell against Zeus in the playoffs, and it looked like Keen was not a big game player, a big game hunter. But Keen, what he has become now that he's joined GENG, I think that Canyon Chovy Keen is the strongest topside of all time. That's the strongest topside of all time. And Keen is a very key piece in that. Strong on the weak side, doesn't die to ganks, lanes beautifully. I think he's untouchable. Second place here, easy peasy, Bin. Bin had a very, very sad year last year because he set such a high bar with the finals together with Zeus. I think he was even better than Zeus in the final. But Bin has been ramping up. If you checked out the JDG finals, Xiaoshu is a very formidable player. He's on the up and up, has had a very good split here on the JDG. But Bin really took a big dump on him. We saw vintage Bin. And I thought that this season should be very good for him, considering you play in isolation and it's very hard to gank top. The 1v1 lane is more important than ever, and Bin is the only one that could potentially crack Keen in a very good matchup. I think that Bin is a force to be reckoned with. He is very, very dangerous. I think in terms of Clear and Xiaoshu, I think it depends on your flavors. I think that Clear has a very, very nice upside when it comes to the carries. I like him a little bit less on the tanks, but Clear is kind of like the player that Shiwu wishes he was. He's a lot more consistent, I would say, with his output. I think Xiaoshu is more on the bruiser side. You know, when it comes to like Renekton and Jax, that's his direction when Clear plays, the carries. When I think of Clear, I think of his Gnar, I think of his Gwen. But I'm going to put Clear just a little bit above Xiaoshu, but I think these two are interchangeable in terms of their level of play. The next person in line, in my opinion, the interesting thing about Dokes versus Broken Blade, I think the big thing for me here when it comes to the comparison between Dokla and Broken Blade is that I think Dokla showcased a very interesting, very, very interesting champion pool there, Dokla. I don't know how relevant it will be, though, because I don't think that he pressed the advantage as much as he should have. I think also Dokla Broken Blade position is currently interchangeable. I think that Broken Blade's experience and him, of course, being good on some of the current blind picks, I think, is a massive benefit. But Broken Blade still has that issue. I know he played Rumble. I know he played Gwen in playoffs. But still, I am not 100% sold. Because even in that Rumble game that he won, I was seeing Rumble ults that caused cataclysm across the earth and the globe. He just destroyed the nature. He ulted mountains. He ulted a lot of the scenery on the Summoner's Rift. I think that these two, for me, are interchangeable. Because I do think that Dokla's strengths that he showed, the Varos, the Irelia, all that jazz, if he tries to pull that off against any of the top 4 here, I don't think it's going to work. And I think that Broken Blade is a better nail than Dokla, in my opinion. But I think these two are interchangeable, just as clear in Xiaoshu. Let's move on to the next roles. After sleeping on my list for one day, I realized that I even listened to my arguments. It's like my arguments still stand true. I don't know how Raptor ended up behind or whatever. Maybe it was because I was thinking about Raptor's inexperience or whatever. But I do think that the ordering of my jungle players was kind of troll. I think this is the list. My arguments are still important. Whatever, listen to them. I talk about the players at great depth. This is the ordering that I would do in hindsight after sleeping on my list. And let's go back to the video. Like, we have a very, very stacked pool here, right? Shun, Canyon, Inspired, even Scumond. These are all fucking fantastic players. Like Braptor, bro, this jungle pool is stacked to the gills. Junja as well. This is not a placement just yet. We're going to elaborate on it. But these guys, this jungle pool is insanity, bro. It's insanity. The main issue here for Inspired, in my opinion, is that I think that Inspired, his value as a player goes beyond the jungle role. And I think it's important that I highlight here, when I talk about this situation here, and I'm comparing the junglers, I am going to fully zoom in on the aspect of Inspired of his jungling side. That doesn't add all the, the comms and how he micromanages and how he drives the game, because I think if we make tier lists, it becomes very unfair to, of course, compare players. I think I can go so far to say I don't think that any other jungler here could do what Inspired did with LYON in his region. But in terms of pure jungling skill, I would rate Inspired lower. I'm making that definition very clear. I don't think any one of these junglers could do what Inspired did. If Canyon landed in the LCS, okay? He's not going to micromanage his squad. He's not going to micromanage that squad, bro. He's going to be like, what the fuck is my teammate doing? You know? He's not going to drag them over the finish line. I don't think Scumon does that either. I don't think Junja, I don't think Raptor, I don't think Shun does that. I think Inspired, his value goes beyond how he jungles, while he jungles really well. Don't get me wrong, Inspired is a very, very good jungler, but I'm talking jungle, purely jungle. And I wanted to outline that before we talk about the ratios here, all right? Before we talk about the rankings, okay? What makes Shun very unique to me, what makes him very interesting, is that I think that he is the only one that jungles unorthodox in comparison to the other ones. He is a jungler that is willing to be offbeat, and he does it very well. Let me define it. Jungle right now is basically a situation where you have to hit the beats. You have to clear your camps. You need to make sure that you stack your jungle pet. You have to stack your jungle pet, and as you stack your jungle pet, I think in that moment, right, you stack your jungle pet, you want to, of course, get 530, the extra cookie, get the smite upgrade, be ready for the crab. Shun is willing to go off beat. He finds level 3 ganks, level 4 ganks, and then he loops around, ganks again, targets the flash. And it seems so hard to punish him, because he finds very, very unique pockets that makes it very awkward to play against him. I think that makes him very different from the others. Very, very different from the others. I think that he's very, very good at finding pockets in the vision, and his gank angles are insanely sharp. Insanely sharp. In terms of Canyon, still think that Canyon, I rate him a little bit lower, not because Canyon is not fucking the jungle go, okay? Canyon is the jungle go. But I think that the games where he jungles for Genji, a lot of them that I watch are very easy. And they're easy because his lanes are just dominating. What I see, for example, when BFX are dominating in the jungle, what Kellen and, of course, Raptor do is that they find invades, they pressure Raptors, they pressure Red, they take over the game. I don't see that same level of connectivity, you know? I don't see the same level of connection there. right? I don't see the same level of connection. That's why I rate Canyon just a little bit lower. Even though he's a jungle go for me, I just rate him a little bit lower because I think that he doesn't exude the pressure and the opportunity he has enough. So I wanted to highlight that, okay? I'm just thinking out loud here. Maybe things change along the line. This is where it gets kind of funky. Junja, even though he ramped up in playoffs, I think he's been very, very inconsistent. I think he struggles to hold on to leads, plays a very creative game. I think that Junja sometimes is like LPL Velia, you know? It's like, plays on the edge, does crazy shit, and can't accept sometimes when a game is won. But if you see him playing a Kiana or a fucking Javan, he can fucking carry the game. He very vicious. Very, very high highs, but also low lows. You get me? So I'm not gonna throw him in there just yet. Raptor, I think that he's been quite a revelation. In the success of BFX, I think Raptor was a very, very big part of that. I think a lot of attention goes to Diablo and Kellen, rightfully so. Fantastic. Really, really well done. They are playing super well. I think Raptor has been amazing. Like Raptor dog-walked Lucid, right? But the weird part about the LCK is that the opposition was kind of all over the place, you know? And I think that a lot of the teams in the LCK were defined by how their bot lane drafted. T1 didn't know how to draft their bot lane and they lost, right? D+ learned how to draft their bot lane, but they were just worse. And that's where you get those opportunities. Inspired Scumond. When it comes to... So this is where people are going to get angry. And I understand. I think that in terms of jungle, maybe in a world where Inspired doesn't have to micromanage fucking everything, maybe Inspired would be even more precise. But I think the precision of Scumond, if I just talk about jungling, all right? If I talk about jungling, I put currently Scumond's performance above Inspired. But please, I repeat, because people are going to get so angry, Inspired, no one can do what Inspired did on LYON. But I think that goes beyond jungling. That's why I don't put it on in this context here, okay? I don't put it in this context. I don't think anyone could do what Inspired did with LYON. But Scumond, when it comes to jungle, in terms of his mechanics, in terms of his play across a massive range of champions, I think Scumond was a little bit sharper in the jungle. Not that I need it for the argument, but I also think that the LCS, in terms of resistance, is not really there, bro. List the top 5 junglers in the LCS. I say this not to make the argument against Inspired. I say it more that you get away with a lot more, and moments that I saw, right? So I repeat, Inspired, if we are valuing who is like MVP, most valuable player, across everybody here, I think Inspired is like top 3. But we're talking jungle, purely jungle, okay? The reason I do this, right, because people are going to ask, why do you do it like this? Is because I don't get the insight on the comms from the other teams as great of a detail, and I don't know what Canyon does for his team in comms. I don't know what these do. Like, we have some bits and pieces, right? For sure, we do bits and pieces. But often when I see these voice comm videos, it's like team fight after team fight after team fight, you know? Anyhow, we still have Raptor and Junja. I do feel like Raptor's lack of experience can be a pain point. But I'm having a hard time. Because it's like, the jump for me, for Raptor, is either here or either here, right? That's how big of a jump it is. That's how torn I am, right? I'm torn. Anyhow, let's roll with that. Mid lane. So basically, I am going to put Chovy. Do I need to say more? Next in line, Knight. Do I need to say more? I don't need to say more. Third, I'm putting Caps. Do I have to say more? I don't think I have to say more. Next in line, Honkyu. Guys, Vikla, I'm going to be honest with you guys, Vikla got quite carried. I don't rate Vikla. I don't know. People watching these games, like, I don't rate Vikla, bro. Knight fell off, bro, ever since he left JDG. I don't understand. It's so obvious to me when someone doesn't watch LPL. So obvious. Because they make comments like that, you know? Like, Knight carried Bilibili the entire last year. And this year he's been fucking good too. So, it's so obvious when somebody, like, doesn't watch LPL. It's so obvious. You know, I can see through the lines, my friend. I can see through the lines. I can read through the lines. I think Vikla is extremely overrated because of the BFX run. Honestly. I think he's better than Saint, but I don't think Vikla is that good. And even then, like, who the hell watches? Like, did you guys watch Caps the Split? How good he fucking is right now? Have you seen how good he is? Caps is insane. Caps' form is nuts. Absolutely nuts. Caps is having like a crazy renaissance, bro. Caps has always been good. But he's been... This split and this playoffs was incredible, bro. Incredible. Absolutely incredible. I don't rate Vikla at all. I think that him playing like Ari and him getting like good yawn angles because of the rise flex and like solo killing Faker when he's like not performing, I really don't care, bro. I really don't care. I'm not sold on Vikla. Not sold on Viklamont. Alright, bot lane. People said, yo, does G2 just beat JDG? Well, this is where things get tough. This is where things get fucking tough, guys. Look at the ADCs that are coming out of Asia. Look at that. The gap in the role. This is not the order yet. But the gap is massive. And even then, it's Berserker. Oh shit, not Duro. Shit. Viper. Anyhow, my order here is going to be Ruler, Viper, Diable, Gala, Berserker, Hansama last. Let's talk about it. Alright? Ruler as a player, I think that he's a big game player. Right? Similar to that level that, like, similar... There's other players than Faker that are going... That play better the higher the stakes. And Ruler is one of those guys. Plain and simple. Last year, if you guys remember, his run-up to MSI was kind of like mediocre to his standard. And then he went to MSI and just fucking clocked everybody. Someone said, except for Worlds. What the hell are you saying? What the hell are you saying except for Worlds? When they played against KT, I've never seen anyone draft so bad. He was the best fucking performing player with Duro in that series. He just got completely sold in the draft. Had losing matchup every game and was 10 CS ahead. That's like a massive win on paper. But people don't see it. Because everyone says, Genji is choking. Chovy choked. BDD smacked him on the forehead. Plain and simple. Viper, I think that he has less of that element of rising to the task. He's a LPL winner, LCK winner. I think that he's insanely consistent at an insanely high level. If it's a regular season game, I don't take any other ADC besides Viper. But I do think that Ruler just goes up to the occasion, you know? He could just rise up to the occasion in a way that is incredible, you know? And Viper is also there. Like, we're talking small margins. Small margins. If someone told me Viper is better than Ruler, I'll be like, yeah, I can make the arguments for that on the day, you know? Viper had an insane ramp up. You know, what was so weird about China? Their format was unbelievably ass. Usually LPL has great formats. But look at their format. So you play Split 1, and you practically just make playoffs regardless of how your best of threes go. No one, they didn't need to give a fuck about this. Sure, they had to play a qualification match, but bro, they had to play a qualification match against bums. Sorry to say such harsh words. The best of threes didn't matter, and people judge Bilibili for how they played in the best of threes because they dropped series against JDG, didn't look good, right? And then when playoff came around, 3-0, 3-0, 3-2, 3-1. And then suddenly they look like a completely different team. So I don't want us to judge Bilibili on how they played in the regular split that seemingly didn't matter, you know? Because in the end, the playoff bracket was, you were in the upper bracket no matter what. While in the past, LPL playoffs, basically your seeding really mattered. Because if you're top 2, you made top 4 instantly in playoffs. And it was like a fucking gauntlet, if you guys remember. But here, seeding didn't matter at all, bro. Like, who cares about the seeding here? Right? Anyhow, let's continue. So, Diable is a super talent. Super talent, obviously. Like, I saw it from day one, you know. Diable is a monster. He's a fucking freak. Diable is the future. Diable is, you know, Kalist is Kalist, but in LEC. Diable is Kalist if Kalist was a global phenomenon. So Kalist is Kalist in the LEC. Diablo is Kalist globally. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense? Do you understand what I'm saying? Because the thing is, I have said for the longest time, when people complain about top lane, people complain about mid lane, people complain about jungle, I said for the last 3 years, ever since we had 2023 MSI, I've said that ADC gap has been by far the largest problem. The biggest problem. Since 2023, I said, Kalist is so overrated, it's insane, lol. That this mid-beast fangirl obviously doesn't fucking understand what I'm saying. Doesn't fucking get it. Let me explain. 2023 and onward, the biggest gap we've had has been ADC versus fucking... Like, the ADC gap is just impossible. Every time we go to tournaments internationally, it's like Ruler, Viper, Gumayushi, Gala, Elk, and it's like, the ADCs that we send, while regionally can be really good, it's just never enough, bro. Like, we send, you know, respect to Hansama. We Hansama and Upset. But it's like, bro, the ADC game is just completely fucking... It's a different game. It's a different game when I see these ADCs play, you know? And why I say all of this is because how competitive Kalist is early on in his career in the LEC, in this little small pond that is the LEC, Diablo is doing that exact same thing, but on a fucking global level. Where he, as very early on in his career, is competitive against Ruler, Viper, right? Not Viper, because Viper, of course, left, but like last year he was also good. You get what I'm saying, right? Anyhow, Diablo over Gala. Gala can be really good, but also quite inconsistent at times, similar to Elk right now. Like he had some messy fights even in the final. Gala is really, really good, but a little bit inconsistent, which is new to him. But I put him over Berserker, and I put Berserker over Hans, I think. I think Berserker is going to be held back by his support. So I think Hans Sama is going to beat him. Isles, without knowing much about the LCP players and the Brazilian players, I could maybe say that Isles might be like the worst player at the tournament. I'm sorry, Isles. Like, if you somehow listen to this, prove me wrong. Prove me wrong. If you prove me wrong, I will apologize. I feel so bad because I'm ragging on the guy. But my homie Isles, you are in deep waters here. I think that Berserker is way more trustworthy with a carry game than I feel right now in regards to Hansama. I think Hansama and Labrov and Broken Blade, they're very strong players, but I think if Skewmon and Caps didn't have a split of their lifetime, I think they wouldn't have beaten Casey with the level that they played. Hansama will end up looking better than Berserker. He will end up looking better than Berserker. But I think Berserker is the stronger player. Hansama will end up looking better, but that's because he has Labrov and Berserker has Isles. If we had Hansama Isles bot lane, oi, that would be a disaster. So I repeat, I think Hansama will end up looking better because of the conditions and his lane phase, but I think Berserker has a sharpness to him that is very, like, nice. His leads are very, very, like, when he gets items in the game, you fucking feel it in the game, which I think is a very crucial detail. But Hansama and Berserker, they're swimming in a small pond because I don't think they're going to touch these other four. Support. This is where it gets fun. You know, when it comes to the conversation of supports, right? Helen was insane the whole year. But still, against Duro, look kind of different. I think Duro is basically, right now, he's kind of like Keen of support. Just really, really fucking clean all around. What I like about On, I have a very, very weak spot in my heart with On. You know? I think On, lane phase, engage angles. I think at these two things might be the greatest. He's insane, the fucking engage angles he finds. And also his lane phase with Viper is mean, bro. It's crazy mean. I think Kellen is really, really good on the range supports, but maybe a little bit lacking on the melee supports. And I know some people don't like when On dies in River sometimes. That happens, but that's why he's not first, right? And he plays with a very, very high level of risk. But I also think he's not getting any help getting vision. So he's just playing risk prone. But the thing is, if you like review it, you can kind of see the vision. He's like spotting jungle on bot side. And he's like, I'm going to face check here because the odds of them being 3 here is low. So I'm going to go for it. And every time he gets away with it, you don't see it. But when he gets caught, it's very easy. It's like, oh, he died. Dumbass. But I think people don't see what he gets away with because it's very similar to Mickey and similar to Hilly too, right? Very, very high risk, high reward gameplay where some of the deaths they play where the enemy shouldn't be there because they should be doing something else. And sometimes as a support, you have to play off of that information. You have to play that game. On his LPL, Hilly-san, he is. Yeah. I'm really happy with this. I think this is a good place to land. Vampire is improved. I think he plays his range supports a lot better. I think Era was probably a better support, even though like he ran it the fuck down in the cities that they played. You know, I had a conversation, you know, in regards to the teams. Obviously, Gen G winner. Finalist is, of course, Bilibili. Playoffs is going to be G2. Sorry, not G2. I think GENG and FearX and JDG is going to end up. And then I think that this is going to be the order, right? I think there's a world. I think LYON Inspired is powerful enough to get them to 6th. Why no LOUD and Team Secret West? Because I don't know them enough. I was on Power Spike, right? With Jamara. Power Spike with Jamara. Okay? My man said that LYON's going to beat G2. You know what my response was to Jamara? I said, Jamara, I think LYON would lose against KC. I think Jamara would lose against MKOI. I think LYON doesn't do shit against KC and MKOI. I think G2 runs laps around them. I just don't see a world like they get away with having no support. I think LCS is in complete shambles. I'm going to be honest. This is a very maybe different video for it, but I think LCS is in complete shambles. Your 2 best regional players are in LEC right now in Jojopyun and Busio. And the moment Inspired gets a team offer from the LEC, you're cooked. You are done. The region is over. What Tattoo said in the interview, why don't we have more world spots? That shit is going to be even more revealing as a truth. Because Brazil is growing as a region. The teams are getting better. And the LCS, the teams that have carried this region, the players that have carried the region on their back over the last couple of years, they are going to retire. KoJJ, Impact, Sven. Like how much longer are they gonna fucking carry your league, you know? When your green card holders are no longer wanting to play in the LCS, it's done, bro. And I have said for the longest time, I said, you know, LCS, you know what they need to do? They need to remove complete import restrictions. I hate to say it, but Reginaldo was probably right because the green card players were too broken. And if you think about it, if I say Inspired is leaving, who is going to carry the mantle? Who are going to be the top 5 players in LCS? Who are the top 5 players in LCS, guys? If Inspire leaves. Think about it. The Koreans. LYON, sure. Bro, LYON and Manso are the type of players to find a team in LEC, by the way. Thanatos, Berserker, Quid. Quid was horrible this split. Let's be honest. You know, it's rough. It's rough. I say all of this, right? Because even though I am insanely impressed with what Inspired has accomplished with LYON, considering where they started and where the level was at, and then to overcome, and then to turn a team once again with winners, I'm insanely impressed. I don't want to take anything away from that. But I think that there's going to be a big fucking wake-up call when they play teams outside of the LCS. I think Saint is way too inconsistent. I think Isles is way too non-existent. I know there's some games that Isles played where he was just like 0-7-0 on Bard, and it was like, yeah, his team is still playing the game and maybe winning. Like, Isles lane's fine, but I think it's going to be a problem. It went from good analysis, the EU buys in like 20 seconds, lol, 0 credibility now. What are you talking about? LCS is so dead as a region. I'm sorry to say it. It's very dead as a region, bro. Jojopyun and Busio are your 2 best native players. They're out. They're out, man. EU bias. There's no EU bias, bro. From the eye test, guys. From the eye test alone. G2, KC, like the level that the finals was at in comparison to where the LCS was at. There were so many fights that LYON doesn't take that should be winning, that if they don't take those chances, they lose against anybody, bro. You can't sit there and say, or okay, this team is going to int eventually. Team Liquid is going to int eventually, it's going to give us chances. Let's give them soul. Like, that's not real, bro. EU didn't look great this year, though, IMO. But what are you comparing it to when you say that? Every region was fucking messy. Let's be honest. LCK was messy, okay? LCK was messy. LPL was messy. LCS was messy, and EU was messy too. All the regions, the major regions that we've been watching, were all messy. I don't think LYON can be like, oh, let's give up 2 Drakes and then let's find a team fight later. I don't think that exists against any of the other teams. I don't think that exists. All the other teams are very used to being in skirmish-heavy games because that's what the meta is right now, skirmish-heavy. LYON and LCS shy away from that. The fights look very unnatural. So let's cover some questions. Genji, winner, easy. They literally have the fucking best player in every role almost, right? You can say they have the best player in every role. They're a team that stuck together. They made no roster changes. They are the same, right? They're the same. The insane team. If Genji don't win this tournament, it should be a massive shock. They had a blip in the matrix. They lost to KT at Worlds, and then they were out. Oh, Yamato, they lost in LCK too. They 3-0'd them in lower bracket, okay? They dog-walked them, okay, in lower bracket. Genji should win the tournament. If they don't, the world has stopped. Hell has turned to ice. Something has happened, okay? They should win. Unless maybe they go to Brazil, they get food poison or something. I don't know. They're not used to the climate. It's too hot. I don't know. Like the freak cases, okay? Genji should win. Easy. Bilibili versus FearX. Guys, FearX, I think their solo laners cannot play. I think against every other team in the LCK, Kellin, Diable, and of course, Raptor, I think that they are good enough that Clear's job and Vikla gets easy entry into the games. Easy entry into the games. But it's very different when you lane against Viper on. It's very different when you lane against Duro Ruler. It's very different when you lane against these levels of bot lane. I think the big gap here, you can't tell me in an honest world that you're going to say that Kellin and Diable are that good that they're going to gap harder than what was going to happen to Vikla and Clear. I think BFX really tapped into where the meta was at very early. They were very good. FearX never played HLE. Like, and what, you think HLE would beat them or what? I don't think HLE would touch FearX. No fucking way, bro. FearX really tapped into this Kellin's biggest strengths. Right now, it's a carry-heavy meta on bot lane and also range supports, and this is Kellin's biggest strength. They are very good and tapped into that. Anyhow, I repeat, I think that Bin versus Clear, Knight versus Vikla is going to be the biggest gap here, and I think that's going to be a problem. Shun is not going to crack to Raptor, and Viper and On will not crack to Diable and Kellin. Maybe Diable and Kellin will win a lane, but I don't think they will ever win hard enough to carry the hole and the crater that is going to be created in the solo lanes, in my opinion. I think that is going to be very tough. Guys, definitely, I can see them carry a game, a 2, but 3 games, I don't see it. 3 games, I can't imagine a world where, like in a BO5, that the bot lane of BFX is going to carry all the way. Now, BNK FearX against JDG, I think that the consistency of Raptor and the bot lane is going to be crucial here. I think that Xiaoshu and Clear are similar level in my opinion, and I do think that Hongqiu is a better player than Vikla. Most likely, because the format is kind of wonky like that, we're not going to see the BFX JDG matchup, which is really sad in my opinion. So we press first stand. Look, what's going to happen most likely, right, is BLG beats BFX. BLG goes to qualification match. G2 beat Team Secret Wales. LYON beats LOUD. And then Genji, JDG. And then Genji go out as a first seed because they're going to thump the NA team. And Bilibili is going to thump G2, right? That means that Bilibili and Genji are going to be at the opposite side of the bracket. And they get a rematch. We will see Genji versus BFX and Bilibili versus JDG. And then Genji versus Bilibili in the finals. I don't know if LYON is beating LOUD. Honestly, with how good Fury is, I don't understand how they didn't win CBLOL. I really don't get it. Maybe LOUD are just the GOATs. maybe Louds are just might be Louds are just the goats. Maybe they're the best team in the world. Honestly, maybe they're just the best team in the world. If Fury was third place, I don't even understand how I could lose. Honestly, after I watched Fury at MSI last year, you know, remember when they almost beat G2 and shit? Bro, I thought Fury was just gonna run the CBLOL forever, bro. And then they didn't make it to the next international. I'm like, what the fuck happened? Bro, like, why is Fury not winning every CBLOL split, bro? G2 was pathetic, but it's like, we can still judge Fury. Like, mechanically, they've got hands, bro. Tattoo? Maybe Tattoo is gonna carry LCS in the future, bro. They need to hire a Tattoo. Anyhow, BFX vs JDG. I just think that the carry power of Diable, Kellen, and Raptor is going to be consistent here. If JDG were to play against FearX, I think that FearX was a very smart drafting team in the LCK too. So I don't want to like instantly say that JDG will pull tricks, but Tabe is probably the one guy you can trust to pull tricks. He's very, very good at understanding where the wind is blowing. I think we've covered it all, right? We've covered it all. I already talked about G2 versus LYON, even like LEC versus LYON, FearX JDG. We talked about Bilibili and GENG. The matchup Bilibili versus GENG. The thing is, Bilibili, lane and team fight at a similar level to GENG. But GENG does everything else just as good, and Bilibili don't. I think Bilibili could win a game, maybe even two, but I can't see the win 3. Sometimes Bilibili draft like complete fucking ass. Sometimes Bilibili doesn't have the discipline to pull off the good Drake fights. And I think that level of jiu-jitsu GENG is very good at. I think the issue is, even though Bilibili can lane super well, and they can team fight super well, GENG is going to choose all the fights that happen. And that's what Macro is. Macro is having the capacity to manage the economy in a way where you get to choose the fights that happen. Is LYON last rage bait or is he truly delusional? Bro, why are people getting hyped by LYON? Right, bro, he thinks LYON's gonna beat any of these teams. I don't know anything about LOUD. I saw Furia play. LOUD versus LYON might be hype, bro.